Sam Callahan, how are you doing, fella?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well, mate. Thank you for joining me this evening.
It's all right. Thanks for having me on.
So I saw you at the ring earlier this year. I instantly recognised you, having been an X-Factor fan in my younger days. Um, what year was it that you were on there, and where did you finish?
It feels like 100 years ago. It was 10 years ago to that this year, coming up this
Mm.
year, and it was 2013. So, and I finished sixth, I think. So top 10. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. It was good fun. Obviously a crazy time for me. And life's changed a lot, and I've done lots of different things since. But that's what life's about, isn't it? Trying different things and just experiencing as much of life as you can. So
So how old were you when you did the X Factor?
19, 19, yeah. So I'll be 29 next year. I turned 20 just sort of yeah. So 20 after X Factor. So what like I think we were just done the tour. We just finished the X Factor tour. So
Yeah. So I mean, I'm going to show off my X Factor nerdiness here. I think Sam Bailey won that year, didn't she?
she did, yeah.
Yeah.
Surely you've googled this. No, this isn't just off
No,
the top
no,
of your head.
I've done virtually no research in
Really?
regards to this because I want you to tell me. But is there anyone else from that year who's actually been quite successful musically? If there's not.
No. For the tape, I shook my head. No, I think yeah, generally like it depends what you see as success. I think what like we're all kind of on the same page that you've got your Ollie Merzes and your One Directions and
Yeah,
Leona Lewis, people like that have gone on and had amazing careers. For me, I 2 years ago when COVID hit, I started doing personal training, but I've literally just kind of slowed down on music. So really, I've had a career in music and a solid career. Bought a house and did some other bits and bobs through music, and I've had a great time. So to me, like that's relative success, but it's not.
oh,
But I'm not Ollie Murs. Like I'm not pretending to be. Do you know what I mean?
I would certainly see that as a success.
Yeah. So I've had a great time, and there's some time for change for me now. But I mean, we can get into that later. But yeah. So I mean, we had Luke Friend was one of my one of the other boys, Nicky McDonald. Scottish guy. They were the boys that they both got down to the final with Sam Bailey. So yeah, but it was
Yeah,
a whirlwind.
I can imagine. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, finishing sixth, then you got to go on the tour as a finalist at
Hmm.
19 years old. How dramatically did your life change?
It was chaos. I tell you what, was strange. There was a moment on the plane on the way back from judges' houses when I'd got through and I knew that I was going to be on the live shows.
Yeah,
So only 12 finalists get on to the live shows. And I knew that everybody at the time watched X Factor. It was, there's 12 million people watching,
it was huge.
um,
Yeah, huge show.
which it was in its prime. So, and I remember being on the plane, looking out the window. As we come back into the UK, you see all the lights from the houses and the buildings. I thought, literally, pretty much every one of them houses will have the X Factor on, very, very soon, and my face on their telly, which was a really strange feeling at 19, like you say. And that was, I think, the moment where I realised that, forever, for how long, I didn't know, but for a moment at least, life was going to change dramatically for me for a while. So yeah, I think that was the moment I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be mad.
How long did you have to keep it all a secret then?
I had to. I was allowed to tell. I don't know. To be honest, I can't even remember if I was allowed to or not. But I did tell, like my close friends and family. But yeah, you just kind of keep it under wraps. What they do, they get you into the house. So there's an X Factor house. They get you into the house very like soon after you come from judges' houses. So basically, the whole time period where people were watching the X Factor and you go through all the rounds and bits and bobs like that, uh, you know where to tell anyone. Do you know what I mean? You're
Yeah,
not
it's
you're
almost
not
locked
mixing
down.
with your mates. Yeah, you're not mixing with your mates. You're not going to work. You're not. You're basically on lockdown. So that's how they managed to kind of keep things a surprise and that.
And who was your coach, your judge?
Louis Walsh.
Louis Welsh. Because I think I've not particularly researched it, but I have listened to a couple of your other interviews, and I do remember Gary Barlow not being particularly fond of you. Now,
Yeah.
was that all scripted and just sort of circus drama?
I mean, I know as much as you do. I mean, at the end of the day, what I would say is what I learned is it's very much a big pantomime X Factor. You know, it's there for your entertainment, and hence why, you know, certain people have gone really far that a lot of us would probably look at and go, I don't know if they should have done.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what I'm talking about. In the competition, you know, sometimes you get those, they're labelled in the press and stuff, as it were, as joke acts.
Yeah.
You know, and they're for our entertainment. And that's the same reason that the judges have to play a part, you know, and you've got your bad guy, your good cop, bad cop. And often, for years and years, Simon Cowell's been bad cop. Well, on my year, we didn't have Simon Cowell. We had Gary Barlow. So Gary, I suppose, played bad cop. And it was, yeah, it was great. But he didn't like me. But you know, the other thing about it is, I think one of the things that keeps you in the competition, other than your singing and your music and your talent and stuff, is staying relevant. Once you get to that stage, once you get to the point where you're in the press and stuff, if you stay relevant, people keep wanting to watch you, people keep wanting to vote for you, things like that. And in all of Gary's sort of hate, like all of Gary's effort to hate me, what he did do was keep me relevant because he kept talking about me.
Yeah. It might be an Essex thing because he didn't have a similar problem with Ryland Neal, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, and me and Ryland are very different. Although Ryland's a great guy. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there was a point where we were backstage and I had my guitar and we had a little jam, me and Gary Barlow. So he kind of hated me that much.
Wow, what a memory that is for you. That's incredible.
Yeah. I've got some good memories.
I suppose that's the main thing of it. What I mean, an incredible experience to have at that time of your life, and you've got memories to last a lifetime. And as you say, what you've done with your music for yourself personally, you can't say that's anything but a success. It's brilliant.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's funny because I get both things now. Like yourself, you were like, I recognised you as soon as I saw you, and that's really lovely. But I also get people go, I know you from somewhere. and I turn around and I'll usually say Crime Watch.
Yeah. I couldn't pick your name out of my head, but I said to my daughter, I said, I'm sure he was on the X Factor. He's a local guy, and I'm sure he was on the X Factor.
Yeah, so I get that a fair bit, and the other thing you get is a lot of people turn around and go, keep at it, don't stop singing and stuff like that, and you're like, thanks, that. But
yeah. Not realising that you still are.
Yeah, or not just that, but like I've had 6, 7 top 40s from songs I've released. I've performed in all over the world, globally, in America and bits and bobs like that. Had a #1 dance hit in America, which is a collab in a house tune that I did. And I've had a career where I've performed. I've done arena tour. You know, I've performed to 20,000 people at the O2 and at Wembley. And to me, those were all the things that were on my little tick list. Really, I'm not Ed Sheeran, but I've done a lot of what was on my tick list, which is great. You know, and I'm still, you know, I'm not 19 like I was when I was on the X Factor, but that's because we're all human. We all get older. But I'm not exactly old. You know,
well, I mean, in the order of what I have done, you know, preparation. In the order of what I've done, I've actually got this last. But I did see on your Instagram the other day you put a post out about adulting and how your life has to change, and with the roller coaster that your life has been in the last 10 years, I'm assuming that you've got to keep some sort of mental stability to just keep yourself together. Yeah,
and I've done a lot over the years to do with mental health for that reason, and I think the more you take on in life, and the more that the more pressure you put on yourself, the more susceptible you are to having issues, whether it's anxieties or whether it's mental health issues, I mean, of different kinds. I think that the more pressure you put on yourself and the more you want to achieve and the more you go and try and do, those changes become much more difficult for you and open you up and expose you to the likes, things like mental health troubles and issues and problems. So yeah, I've certainly in that sense, I've certainly had my battles. But I like to think I've got a great support system, to be honest, and yeah, I like to think so far I've handled them all right.
Yeah. Well, obviously, over the last 10 years, the increase in sort of social media alone would have, and in your position coming from the X Factor, would have almost painted a target on your back for online trolls. And I mean, how do you deal with that? Because I mean, I've only been doing the podcast for like 4 months, and I've had no hate yet. I'm sure it's coming, but I've had none yet.
Right. Well, the first thing I can say is my blocked list on my Twitter, my Instagram, even my WhatsApp. People have managed to get my number over the years several times.
Yeah.
Is like longer than the yellow pages for phone numbers and social media handles. I block people. I don't, I don't know you. I don't need to know your opinion. If you don't like me, I'd rather not hear it. So I'm gonna block you. Like I've got better and worse at different times throughout my career and throughout my life at dealing with it. But it's also what you see as better and worse. Sometimes I got better and I thought, well, I didn't react to that.
Yeah.
But then other times I've given them a load of abuse back, and I thought, yeah, you dealt that well. So, I mean, it depends on what you think. But for me, I think there was also a time where I was very aware that what I say on social media may have an impact on my career, may have an impact on my fans, and what I do next. As I get older, I seem to care a lot less about that. I seem to go, if you don't like me.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think you just learn to cope.
Yeah.
It's all very well though saying this is what I say or this is what I don't say. How it affects you mentally, whether you open your mouth or not, is a different story. And you do have to develop very thick skin. If you do what I've done over the years and you don't have thick skin, you won't do what I've done over the years.
No, you'll crack under the pressure, won't you? I think
100%. It's like there's a lot of things that people don't like, and a lot of it, some of it's jealousy, some of it's just opinion, and a lot of it is just, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast.
We keep it cleanish, but
we'll go with that. Yeah, a lot of it.
The you're on has got an explicit language warning from one of the other guests, so I think you'll be all right.
All right, sweet. Yeah, but Bellends is. I feel like bridges the gap nicely, but and there are a lot of them. The world is full of them. And
there's loads, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, you're always going to come across them.
Yeah, it's amazing you never come across that many nice people, is it?
Unfortunately, not. No. My sister's always said to me, if people aren't hating on you for what you do, you're not doing anything worth hating on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that's quite a good way of looking at it. Like, if you don't try and step out your comfort zone, don't do things that people can get jealous of, people can take umbrage to, then you'd have to sit in a dark room, not do anything, not move, because literally in life you can't please everybody. Sometimes people have things to say, so you just got to deal with it when they do.
So, stepping out of your comfort zone, you went from singing into motor racing. Now, was that a passion of you when you were younger, or did you just go in raw?
Yeah. So funnily enough, there's a connection to me between motor racing and hockey. So I'll get to it in a second. But motor racing I've always loved. My dad used to race cars before I was born. So that's where the passion comes from. I'm an absolute lunatic. Just have been since a child. I love it. and anything that's dangerous or exciting, or you know, or dangerous or fast is exciting to me. So
Yeah.
I started off when I was 9. I did motocross, and then I started doing go-karting. And to be honest, I was rubbish, nearly, because I I was banzai. I did, my dad would I'd do some testing. My dad would pull me into the pits and he'd be like, right, change this, do that, be a bit more smooth here, and go and do it, and you'll take seconds off your lap time. I was like, okay, Dad, I'll go and do that. I'd go and do exactly the same again, not listen to anything he said, and he'd be like, well, what was the point of me trying to teach you? Nowadays, as an adult, I'm able to take on criticism a bit more, and understand why I should do certain things, and it's meant that my dad's advice has made me quite quick in the car.
Yeah.
So but it was generally it was a hobby. My 5 years ago this year, my dad turned around and he's always looked at the classifieds and looked at race cars and gone, oh, should we get it? Should we do this? But he said this time, I'm going to get a race car, and he said, I'm going to go racing again. And I turned around and was like, right, but not without me. I'm coming with you. I'm going to do it as well. I'm old enough and silly enough to make my own decisions. So that's what I did, and it's just absolutely snowballed from there.
That's brilliant. So do you still do it now?
Yeah. I'm racing in 2 championships this year.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm racing a 3.2 litre Porsche in Porsche Great Britain.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Is that connected to the work you do now then with cars?
Only that they're cars. So
but they're very nice cars, aren't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm a sales specialist at Saxton 4x4 at the moment, and we sell some fantastic cars there. And
they've got themselves a little plug there.
Yeah. Well, Chelmsford Chieftains, they're in Chelmsford. Maybe we'll get some hockey players in cars. But realistically, for me, I like a hustle. I like selling. Even when I was doing music, there was points where you're selling yourself to venues to go and perform at different places. You're obviously selling your music. You're selling yourself all the time on social media. Yeah. Last year, I raced in the GT4 Super Cup and also raced Porsches as well. And I raised a whole bunch of money selling marketing packages in motorsport. And basically, end of last year, I turned around and went, I need change. I need some stability in my life, because although music has been fantastic, I am getting older, and there comes a point when you go, right, I need a little bit more security, a little bit more stability for the chapter that comes next in my life, which is really exciting, but for completely different reasons. So that's where that comes into that whole post. About adulting, but so that's where I am right now. But I mean, there wasn't necessarily like a direct connection between motorsport and what I do now. It's just that I like selling, and I definitely like nice cars. So
that does go hand in hand. And you said there was a connection to the hockey as well for the motorsport.
Yeah. So there's not many sports, right, that I go to and get like sheer adrenaline from watching. Motorsport, whether it's rallying, circuit racing, drifting, whatever, does it for me all day. I love when I'm watching racing, there's a little bit of argy-bargy, people getting their elbows out a bit, knocking door mirrors and bits and bobs. And it happens to us, especially the further you get up the front of the grid, the more people will do that. It's technically a non-contact sport, but yeah, it happens. So, and I love it because it's passionate. It's like, tooth and nail fighting to win, to make it happen, and to bring home the trophy.
Yeah.
And I see that in the players when I go and watch hockey. And it's exactly the same thing in a completely different way, in a different sport. And there's, when you watch these footballers now, they brush past each other, they can breathe on each other, and they're on the floor crying.
Yeah.
And then you've got these guys. The first hockey game I went to watch my friend Callum in the Chelmsford Chieftains, and there's a guy there bleeding from his eye socket, just cracking on, just still playing, and he's giving as good as he's getting, and I was like, that is, they're absolutely sending it out there. There's a no care attitude. They're just giving as much as they can, all of their, there's so much heart that goes into the game. And
Yeah.
that is what I hope I bring to racing, and other drivers that I aspire to be like, bring to that sport. And I think that's why, to me, it's different to hockey, to golf, to cricket, to football, to golf, to cricket, to the other sports that they seem to be a lot more mainstream in the UK. But for me, they don't even compare.
No, it's definitely a. I mean, part of the reason I started this was to try and bring hockey to a wider audience, because I mean, as people know with me, that I've not been following the Chieftains for years and years and years like some, because I didn't know it was there. And I think motorsport is one of them niche sports that you're into it or you're not, and if you're into it, you're really into it, and you watch.
Like me.
You follow it everywhere. And it's similar with hockey. Once you get into it, it's quite addictive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before you know it, you're sitting in your front room at 3 o'clock in the morning watching NHL.
Well, funny enough, funny you say that. I'd never been to a hockey game before I went and watched Callum, in Chelmsford. And then last year we went to, my brother lives in America, and he went when he got married out there, and we went as a family to America. And my girlfriend, who came with me to watch Chieftains, came with us. And before we left, we were like, well, we have to go and watch, because we were in Boston. So we went and watched the Bruins. And it was fantastic. And the atmosphere, the way that they do it out there, we don't do anything like that.
No,
there's literally nothing that compares with the atmosphere and the way that they run their sport. It's insane.
Yeah, it's an incredible. I mean, even over here, I spoke to Sean McMorrow, who's Canadian, and he'd played in America and Canada, and he played over here. And he said that the atmosphere over here was better than it was in America.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he played the professional, the elite league level. He played for Belfast and Dundee.
Okay.
Over here. But he says that the British crowd have almost like that football mentality at ice hockey, and sort of get up for it a bit more. And he said you can go to an NHL game in Canada, like go to Toronto, and all the people are sitting there in their suits and don't want to spill their cappuccino. They don't want to get too into it.
Yeah, well, to be fair,
down to the plexi, and all the real fans are down there and having a beer and a hot dog, and it's rowdy.
Yeah. Well, I do like, that is what I love about it. The fans have as much passion as the players. But one of the things I do remember talking to my brother about, he's an American football fan. Yeah. And he was saying, he said, like, I went and watched American football with my mates, and then when they came over to England, we went and watched a football game, a soccer game, right? And he took them there, and they're all shouting, and everyone's screaming and stuff. And obviously, British people, there's a lot of swearing, there's some terrible abuse that happens at these football games. Yeah. And he said that his American friends were sitting there like, why are they all so angry? He was like, no, it's banter. It's just how it is in the UK. It's different.
It's something you don't actually see at hockey. I mean, hockey is actually, considering as you said, obviously with the physical side, the speed, and occasionally the violence that happens in the sport, it's marketed as a family-friendly sport.
Yeah.
Because, there isn't that behaviour in the rinks and in the arenas, the swearing, the abuse. Generally, it's quite family friendly.
Yeah. So, maybe not so much on the ice, but
no, but I think that's the beauty of it. I mean, you mentioned coming to watch Callum. I'm assuming when you trained to be a PT, you did a bit of work with our Captain Handsome.
Yeah, Captain Handsome. Ain't he too pretty to do hockey? So that's the last couple of years I've done personal training. I started it because obviously because COVID happened and there was less gigs, and I was like, well, I need to do something else, and I had the qualification, so I was like, right, well, I'll use that and I'll go and start training people. And I met Callum at VIP where I used to train people. And we just
you're very good at this.
You know what? I just talk in detail. That's why. But it was great, and I had a great time there. But me and Callum seemed to hit it off well, and so he was always he's a really nice bloke, and what you said about there aren't very many nice people as much as there are bellends. And so I get drawn to nice people, and when we talked about stuff, like, he was always very, very interested in in my life and in my motor racing and stuff like that. And so I always used to ask about hockey, but I never really knew anything about it. Like I'd be interested, and I'd pretend to sort of be like, oh yeah, like must be mad. But I didn't know anything about it, so I've got to get to a game. So I got to the game, and I said to my missus, I was like, we're coming all the time. I was like, this is brilliant. I was like, we've got to keep coming to this. So yeah, and I was hooked. So I'll definitely be coming again.
Yeah, I think he's incredibly mature for a young man.
He is.
He's got a very wise head on his shoulders.
He is very, very mature. And I found out he was telling me how he's the only one that's allowed to wear the Union Jack on his shorts because he's played for GB, which I thought was quite an accolade. That's quite a cool thing.
Yeah, there is a few lads in there that have represented Great Britain at various levels.
Yeah,
yeah. There's yeah,
well,
it's a great
very high standard. Chieftains is brilliant team.
Yeah, yes. Really, I mean, it's amazing. I spoke to a few people that have sort of said, that don't understand the game in this country, and they've said, is there like an FA Cup where the teams from all the leagues will compete, and you have to explain to them that it wouldn't work because if Chieftains played a team, like if they played Manchester Storm from the Elite League, it'd be 30-40-0.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things is, I mean, you look at a football game and it can, they can do 90 minutes or extra time and 0-0.
No goals.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen as much in hockey.
Nah, and the goals are tiny in comparison.
It tends to be, yeah, they are. It tends to be a lot. Yeah, it tends to be a lot more action packed. I think it's great.
But yeah, no, the level. I mean, the things with the levels. I mean, it's something you probably won't be overly aware of as being new to the sport. Is the rules on the foreign players that can come in and how many can play and whatnot. And in the Elite League, they're allowed, I think it's 14 foreign players. So when you've got a team full of Canadians and Lithuanians and Finnish players, they're all top quality. Whereas we're only allowed 2. So,
right, okay.
And one of them's a goalkeeper.
Yeah, so Callum has sort of taught me about the pace. He's saying the pace is very different because obviously he came from a different team to Chieftains, and he was saying how he gets a lot more ice time. He said, but the pace is different. Yeah. Anyway, and then I went to America and watched Boston, watched the Bruins, and oh my goodness, quick they like trying to keep an eye on the puck at any one time. It's nigh on impossible. Like, it's so difficult. I don't know how they see it when they've got their helmet on and they're, skating at the speeds they skate. It's incredible. Yeah,
it's a skill level to be in awe of, actually, which I think a lot of us that are sports fans are when you see a sport as skillful as hockey. Yeah. Similar to, jumping in a car and driving it around a track at 200 mile an hour. That's not only does that take skill, that takes incredible nerve.
Yeah. Or stupidity.
It's similar with hockey, I suppose.
Yeah, it's certainly a bit of a wake up when you're doing 130 and someone taps your door mirror and you're like, hang on a minute.
Have you ever fancied having a go with ice hockey yourself?
Do you know what? Like, I don't have enough time. Yeah. But I have said, my granddad was a boxer, and I always said, if I had more time, I'd have a go at boxing. And since going to watch ice hockey, it's a similar thing. I've gone, do you know what? If I have more time, that's a sport I'd get involved with. Because it is right up my street. I love it. Same reason I love watching it. I'm somebody who's always been very time poor, but that's because of the way I choose to live my life. Like, I've done my music. I do a lot of training, whether it was personal training or training myself. And then I picked up the racing. Now I'm not only in my racing, I'm racing in 2 championships this year, and I've got a full-time job. Like, do you know what I mean? So I don't know when I would. You'd have to invent more days in the week for me to get involved. But if that was possible, I'd be there.
Yeah, it's something I've been sort of toying with and playing around with. That I would really like to have a sort of a charity event where I could put a team together of fans or people that are involved with the club to just all have a go. It would be awful to watch, I'm sure.
No. But the thing about it is, you can do that with a football match because everybody, can run. Yeah. Most people can kick a ball, whether it's going to be in the right direction or not.
Yeah. And there's pitches everywhere.
Yeah, and it's something we learn at school, football. Like,
Yeah.
whereas I can only, I can skate in a straight line, but the chances of me falling over are quite high. But how they literally turn on a sixpence, they skate backwards, and they do, and keep an eye on where the puck's going and where their stick is, and everything else. And I just think that you couldn't do that. That's why you couldn't to do a charity game with normal people. It would be it'd be carnage.
It'd be good fun, but
Can
can't
you
it?
imagine trying to insure it?
No, we wouldn't even go that far. We wouldn't bother with insurance. Just sign your own waiver.
That's it. Yeah, you'd have to sign waivers, wouldn't you?
Well, considering how time poor you are, mate, I'm really, really glad that you spent 20 minutes with me this evening. It's been a really, really good chat to hear about your music career, your motorsport career, and now your love of the Chieftains. Do you know when you're going to get to a game next?
I don't. I need to actually. Callum just messaged me about doing this, so he was just like, he said he's gonna take a watch, take a listen. So, I will speak to him afterwards and see what.
Yeah, we do have a rare home game on a Saturday this week, so we actually have a Saturday night home game.
Right. Okay. All
Which
right.
is
Well,
very rare.
we'll definitely get to one soon. And if you're there, and and you see me there, come say hello, and likewise, I'll do the same.
Yeah, I'm there for every home game. I don't get to as many as away games as I like because it's a lot of planning and a lot of travelling. But yeah, every home game. So yeah, we'd love to see you there at some point.
Brilliant.
Good,
Thank
mate.
you very much. Cheers for having me.
No worries. Thank you for joining me, mate.